Welcome, everyone, to Liberty Talk Radio. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, and this is your antidote to popular talk radio. Folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. To do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And this program is just about that. You know, it really bothers me. They've done brain wave studies on people who watch television and compared it to people who listen to the radio. And then they compare that to people who read or just think. And it's very interesting. The people who are reading and just think, or just thinking about something, thinking about solving a problem, for example, the brain waves are very active. In fact, if you look at the pictures that they have, there's a large area which is active in the brain taking place. Now, once you're listening to the radio, you're a lot more passive, and there are fewer brain waves being used, but still a significant number. What is particularly interesting is once you get to the television, the brain waves nearly stop. I mean, it's like a little dot of thinking, and the government knows that. You see, the government and corporate America do not want you to think. Now, if you think you're a thinking person and in your spare time you are watching that boob tube, I have bad news for you. You most likely are tired from a long day's work, and that's another thing they want you to do. They want you to work hard. They want your labor so that they can tax it to line their pockets so that you, at the end on the weekends, can go shopping to the mall and buy their corporate garbage. Now, someone please call me and give me a better definition of slavery. If you think you are a free person, I'd like for you to examine what you do on a daily basis. Get up early in the morning, worry about your kids, worry about your family, worry about your job, get in traffic, get to your job, then worry about your boss and worry about your job. And when you come home, you're absolutely exhausted from all of this worrying, all of this work. This is the way I was, folks. I was there. This is not something I'm on an outside looking in. I had a job that I disliked. The only redeeming value in that particular job, it had great benefits. And I had a sick child. And I got up every morning and went to that job. You have no idea how I did not want to go to work in the morning. I knew if I quit and ventured out on my own, I would be filing bankruptcy within 6 months. Now, many people out there are in that position or close to it, or maybe even worse. And believe me, I sympathize with you. When you come home exhausted from this, mentally and physically exhausted, and don't kid yourself, this is America, folks. Mentally and physically exhausted. And then you turn on a television, and the television prompts you to, first of all, don't think and listen to what we have to say because we have a government message. Think about that. We have a government message for you. Now, you're not thinking, so it gets ingrained into your gray matter. And what happens? You start thinking that way. You actually start thinking that government is good. It's there for you. That government actually educates your children. That's the responsibility, not your responsibility. You're too damn busy. But the government is there to educate your kids, to be a safety net, to provide for you and your family, to provide the health care in the event that you're ill, especially in your later years. Now, you are absolutely convinced of that. You can't debate that because you don't have the gray matter. And when I say you, I mean me too. Everyone. I'm talking about everyone, not you individually. I'm not picking on anyone. I'm picking up as a society. But I should say society gets to understand and believe that government is good. This really angers me. Once you fall into that trap, you categorize yourself. You've trained yourself to do exactly what the government wants you to do. Work hard, worry, abdicate all of your responsibilities. You're not responsible for your children's education. The NEA is one of the most corrupt organizations in government. They're responsible for your kids' education, and you better believe it. I bet you didn't like that. I bet you didn't like that at all. You say, well, man, no, I'm responsible. Well, then start taking responsibility. It's tough to do. You probably don't have the time. You're too busy working so that you can pay taxes so that they can do what they want. There are state officials that have no job at all that make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And then we spend a week of watching television, and all you hear on television. Now, I didn't watch it, but I pass by TVs all the time. They're on all the time. If I turn on TV and find a sports score, this is what I get. They are rehashing the election. What for? I had a broadcast on the internet, and believe it or not, folks, I'm going to tell you something that you will not believe because I have difficulty believing it. But I get statistics. On my internet program, the city with the second largest listenership, second largest consistently, isn't New York. It's not Los Angeles, not Tulsa, not Chicago. Hold on to your seats. It's Beijing, China. Beijing, China. And sometimes it creeps up to number one. Lowest it's ever been is 3. 1 week, I remember, it was 3. Third on the charts. Now, folks, that has got to tell you something. Well, I have a neighbor of mine. I mean, I'm sorry. Well, she's actually not a neighbor. She's a neighbor at the dog park. Gal I see. Lynn. She's a sweetheart of a gal. Super gal. Absolutely super gal. And she said, I was at the dog park the other day. She said, I'm going home to watch the news. I said, well, what do you get from that? She said, I get to see what's going on. I said, who's telling you that? She says, well, I know it's not exact, but at least it gives me an idea. You see what I mean? I mean, I'm not criticizing her. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I would do anything in the world for this woman. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. Wonderful in every way. But this is the mentality. I have to leave the dog park because I have to watch the news because there may be something going on that they want me to know that I don't know about. What kind of thinking is that? You see, we have been led to believe. Now, please, whenever I say that, I get mail from the hardcore Christians about God and the Bible. I'm not going there. I'm not saying, give up your belief in God I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there's a difference between knowing and believing. And all the government wants to do, it wants to be placed in the same level, on the same bracket, the same pedestal as religion. Same one. Now, we say we believe in God because, quite frankly, no one has actually seen God. He's never come down and said, hey, Joe, how you doing? You want to go for a beer? Then I've seen him. Now, I believe in God, but I don't know God because I've never seen him. But I have to believe in God. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't get angry. There's nothing wrong with that. But government wants you to think that way. They want you to believe. You don't know, and they, folks, don't want you to know. Let's take a break. Well, I'm back, folks. I know I'm preaching. I just heard from someone, and they said, hallelujah. You know, all right. Be easy on me. Come on. It's early in the morning. I can preach. I make this, that's not an apology, an explanation as to why I preach. And I get asked, well, Joe, you know, there are so many important subjects. Why don't you talk about Syria and why don't you Lebanon and what the border? And folks, it's all immaterial. It has nothing to do with you for the most part. You want to hear that? There are a plethora of articles written by knowledgeable people on each subject. You don't need me for that. What you need me for is to guide you to read this stuff, to turn off the television. I'm not going to talk about how many people died in Syria. I get news reports every day. It is unimaginable the number of people that die in each one of these countries, and most of them are either direct hits from our cluster bombs or drones, or indirectly because we're propping up dictators who have these armed forces that are killing the population, directly or indirectly. I mean, what else is there to say? You want to talk about how many people were killed yesterday, how they were killed, what Hillary Clinton said about it? What garbage! That's filling your head with garbage. Let's get back to religion, our religion, freedom. And you don't have to discard, folks, your current religion. And believe me, I do not reject any religion whatsoever. If you have a religion, don't care. It's valid. I do not disrespect any religion. I do not want to deny anyone their religious beliefs. And let me say a word about that, because I get hit with that very often. They say, oh, you're not a very religious person. You can have two people of the exact same denomination. They go to the same church, mosque, or synagogue, or place of worship. Exact same. They sit next to each other. Then after a particular sermon, you'll speak or even give these people a test. And you will find that their beliefs are very different, even about their own religion. I mean, they're in the same place, the same time, but they really have different interpretations. So I don't deny anyone any interpretation of religion. So I'm just going to know that. But when I talk about religion, I'm talking about our political religion. Because we don't know, folks, what is going on. If you think you know what's going on because you heard the 6 o'clock news, you're fooling yourself. Just think of this one fact. There are billions of things of significance going on every day. When I say billions, because there's 6.5 billion people in the world. And I'll bet you there's something significant that happens to each one person and multiple things that happen to many people. So I say billions of things of significance that happen every day, at least to those people. Our news agency selects a dozen items, broadcast it, that's the news. Thank you very much. We just discounted 6 billion other things that happen. Do not spend your time, don't waste your time listening to what other people are doing. Spend your time making your life better, whether it be going back to school, honing a skill, developing a hobby, spending time with your family, analyzing where you are in life, where you're going to go. That's how you should spend your time, especially if you are the head of household. This is what your responsibility is. Don't take time away from your family, your children, your profession, whatever you want to do with your life, and give it to the government and give it to the media. When you turn on that TV, you are abdicating your responsibilities as a human being. And I want you to think about it. If you think I'm crazy, that's fine. I'm nuts. I agree. Well, first of all, I'm at least going nuts, so I can agree with you halfway. Turn on the TV and then play what I just told you in your head. Think every time you turn on the TV. Now, when I turn on the TV, I like to watch the drag races. Oh, man, I love muscle cars. I'm from the muscle car era. Now, I never had a muscle car, but I had a 327, 300 horsepower, 411 rear, positive traction, a Chevy. Oh, it was mean. It was mean. I had Mallory dual points. This is going back in the old days. When I stepped on that, it had nothing in it. Nothing. It had one option, and that was an AM radio. And I was reluctant to have that put in the car. No air conditioning, nothing.
When I stepped on that gas, all I saw was the hood. Scared the hell out of me. I love to watch that. Well, that gives me pleasure. I watch that for an hour or so. That's it. But don't let religion, television be your religion. Because it's fed by the government. It's owned by the government. It's owned by the large corporate interests. It's owned by companies like General Electric and Procter & Gamble. They own it. They're going to tell you exactly what they want you to hear constantly. And if, when I was a kid, I saw these movies of Chinese kids in classrooms, repeating mantras, constant mantras. Do you know we do the same thing? We do the same thing. Now, we use different tactics. We do the same thing. We're no different. Our government is no different. At least they were honest about it. They're saying, we're going to indoctrinate you. Start repeating. Us, we go, oh, no, we're free people. Go there. But start repeating. And God forbid you think you'll get sent to the principal's office. Johnny was out of turn. You know that. There's one thing I can say about myself that I know. I'm incredibly disrespectful. I mean, not to the elderly or anything like that. Not to people, but I love disrespect. One of my favorite, I'm going to lose a lot of listeners. One of my favorite TV talk show hosts is Howard Stern. Not because of the sex stuff and all that garbage. Because he's disrespectful. He's disrespectful of the system. Jam it. And that's the way you and I should be. Now, don't get me wrong, we shouldn't be like Howard Stern. You know what I'm saying, but you know what I'm saying. And don't reject it because your religion, your political religion says reject that. This guy's a nutcake. Our religion, our political religion, wants us to ignore the past. I don't want to forget World War II. I don't want to forget it. What caused World War II? The real reason. I don't want to forget the Korean War, what really caused the Korean War. I don't want to forget Vietnam. I don't want to forget that. I enlisted to go to Vietnam. I don't want to forget that. I don't want to forget why we went to Iraq. I don't want to forget 9/11. I don't want to forget, but not for the same reason that our government wants us to forget. I mean, our government doesn't want us to wants us to remember, the plaques and stuff. I want to remember why we did it, and I don't want to let them off the hook, and neither should you. Are we ready for a break again? We're ready for a break again. This hour is flying by. Folks, stay with us. Folks, there is a program of total subjugation by the government, and it's very simple. Very, very simple. Don't have to read books on it. It's called Educate, Indoctrinate, and then Suffocate. And that's what they're doing to us. I give our government an A- as far as governments are concerned. People say, oh, our government's a failure. Oh, no, folks. Wrong attitude. Oh, by the way, before I go, now is the time to call in. 855-866-1170. 855-866-1170. I want to see that board light up. I'd like to hear your take on it, your opinion, and I'd like to hear your criticism. Let's at least talk. If we disagree, I will not hang up or get angry or swear at you or anything like that. I really want to hear your opinion. 855-866-1170. We haven't had one call this morning. Wake up, America. Come on, Tulsa, let's go. 855-866-1170. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. Let me hear it. Let's see that board light up. Howard Stern did had an interview, a street interview. I thought it was great. And he asked people right before the election, what is your opinion of Obama's choice of Paul Ryan as vice president? It was incredible. The number of people said, well, I thought he was spot on. He's the man for the job. Unbelievable. Absolutely. And they went on how great Paul Ryan was. And he asked questions that were total nonsense, and people took it and ran with it. These people are gone. You cannot save these people. They are gone. You have to give our... Now, I don't give our government an A+ yet, because, Stalin and Mussolini and Hitler, those guys, and Mubarak, Mubarak was really good. He was an A, not an A+. He was an A. But we're sort of an A+. We're getting there. An A- rather. We're an A-. Now, who do I give a failure to? I'm speaking to them. Us. We are the failures. Because we are the ones that allow the government to do what they're doing. Do you know over 10 million people, elected not to vote. This year, they voted last time. Think about it. 10 million. People say, well, that's a proof of apathy and people are not keeping it up. No, garbage. Because the government, does not permit a choice of the people's choice. In other words, they have the duopoly and they say, this is what you're going to get. Take Stalin or Hitler. Which one do you want? And that's all they're given. They have two criminals. You pick one of the criminals. I'm sorry, I'm not going to vote for a criminal. And I'm not going to go through the reason why. There's 1,000. I can spend 20 hours on the reason why, step by step, and everyone is going to be fact. Well, what happened to Gary Johnson? Gary Johnson was on the ballot for president in 48 states. Name never mentioned once. And there were 3 others. The Constitution Party, the Green Party, another party. And, of course, Gary Johnson was representing the Libertarian Party. But not even mentioned. Not included in the debates. The people of America, well, there's a reason for that because they're... and they go... and you go... Guy's shot. Dead. He's over. It's all over. I mean, he took the blue pill. Everyone who voted took the blue pill. I did not. I voted because I wanted to vote on the bond issues, which were no, and no to spend money. But I did not vote for president. And there was one person running for Congress or something. I don't know who it was. But there was a third party, and I voted for the third party just to jam it to them. Really, I did exactly what I did. Note everybody. Judges, nobody. I throw them all out. I want to see fresh faces all over the place. Don't give me a pretty picture, and then you screw the hell out of me. We really have to think, folks. We have to think. We found the enemy. It's us. Like I said last week, the truth will let you free. But first, it's really going to piss you off, and you know it. You don't like it, and I don't like it. I don't like it. If I don't like it, you shouldn't like it. Folks, 855-866-1170. I cannot believe we have no calls coming in. Do we have a problem with our phones today? Nope. I cannot believe we had 7 phone calls just last week at this time, and I cannot believe we have no phone calls in today. All right, I hope we're not having a phone problem. And if we're not, now, here, Hurricane Sandy. Folks, I'm not the meanest guy in the world. Could be close to the meanest guy, but I'm not the meanest guy in the world. I understand the hardship that everyone's going through. And last week I had mentioned that I have little sympathy for a lot of people because they knew about it. They knew it was happening, and they elected to do nothing because they figured they'd hunker down, and if there's a problem, the government will come to their aid. We are responsible for us and our family. The man of the family is responsible for the family, period. And many did nothing. Like I said last week, if you had approached some of these people 4 weeks ago and said, by the way, Harry, do you prepare in case of any sort of tragedy, would it be a hurricane, a tornado, earthquake, sunspot, something. I mean, something happens that you don't expect. How are you prepared? You would be labeled a nut because that's what happens in my neighborhood. I have no community in my neighborhood. There's absolutely no community. The only people that stick together are the people who have the same lawns. If you have a real green lawn and they're friends. If your lawn is not as green as theirs, they don't want to talk to you. Now, that's my neighborhood. I swear to God. That is my neighborhood. I don't like it. I have no friends in my neighborhood, true friend, meaningful relationship in my entire neighborhood. And I've only been there 38 years. no meaningful relationships. And the few times that I did bring up the fact that, what would you do in case of a, they go, well, yeah, we have some extra food. But they laugh at it. They go, well, aren't you optimistic? You're taking my hope away. Why are you so pessimistic? They argue with you. I don't mention it at all. And my wife says, well, what happens if something really bad happens and our next door neighbor came over and they were starving? You would help them out, wouldn't you? I said, hell no, I wouldn't. Hell no, I wouldn't. Oh, yeah, we have a phone call. Mark, let's hear what Mark has to say. Mark, you're on the line.
Yeah, you was talking about the government and Hurricane Sandy. A lot of people getting an eye-opening experience to how good the government is.
Excellent point, Mark. Excellent point. They sat there and they waited for Daddy to come bail them out.
Yep. And now the unions are involved up there. They come out and put a little red placard on your house. You get to hire a union architect to come in and decide what repairs you need, and then you have to hire union labor to get it done, and then you get part of that money back.
Oh, that's interesting. What if you don't hire a union?
You don't get anything back. It's on you.
Oh, so it's payola time.
Yeah.
Wow, Mark, that's interesting. Wow.
Just like they sent crews from Louisiana and what have you up there.
Yeah.
And they were non-union employees. They cannot work on the electrical system.
That's interesting. That's all part of the game. Remember that song, In the Game? I forgot who sang that song, In the Game, all in this wonderful game. This is a wonderful game that they're playing, But, do you feel as if we are getting accustomed to this? We're being indoctrinated that this is a good way to go?
I'm more along your line. I got stuff set aside where something happens to me in mine, I can take care of it.
Okay. May I ask you, do you have a getaway plan?
Yeah, I've got about 3 months worth of groceries at the house. I've got a fallback position with another 3 to 6 months.
Okay. And now, what if you have to leave where you are now? Or are you going to hunker down?
I have a fallback position that's way off out in the boonies, and I've got the stuff there to survive for another 3 to 6 months.
You're a good man, Charlie Brown. I'm getting there, by the way. I'm getting there. I'm right with you, and I'm getting there. In fact, I put a bid in for some property way out there like you have, and that's my next step, by the way. So, Mark, thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it very much, and you make a lot of sense.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Now, there's a guy who says, yeah, I have. Now, I know, everyone says, well, he's a crazy man, No, he makes sense. In case something happened, he has provisions. In case things happen here, he's saying, hey, I'm bugging out. These people in New York had nothing, absolutely nothing. Now, some of the houses got eradicated, but they have basements. In New York, all the homes had basements. I wonder what was in those basements. I mean, there's always something that you can do that puts you at least in a position that you can survive. I'm not saying live lavishly after this, but survive. Some people are not going to survive. And if you had mentioned this a month ago, they would have said, man, you're pessimistic, you're a nutcake. You're one of those crazy guys. Here's one thing I want to, and folks, let me hear from you. 855-866-1170. 855-866-1170. I want to hear your opinion, your retort, anything. Think about the people who had, hold on a second. I can't see that. Yeah. Yeah. And someone just brought up a good point. Where do you get the real news? How do we find out what is really going on in New York or anywhere around the world? Well, you may want to go on the internet and see for yourself. There are several websites and there are several organizations that provide independent coverage of what is going on. It will be nothing, absolutely nothing like you hear on the 6 o'clock news. Nothing. In fact, it'll be the antithesis of what you hear. Right? I wanted to bring up one point. Let's say these people in New York, they have money in the bank. Just, don't worry, man, I got money in the bank. I can weather this storm, right? And then the storm comes. Remember, he has money. When he says money in the bank, he has nothing. You own nothing. That means there are some digits on a ledger in a bank that he cannot get to. The storm comes. What does this person have? Answer that question now, folks. Come on, answer the question. What does this person own? Of what value are those digits in the bank? You know the answer to that. Can you use, hey, how about using your digital credit card? How about using your digital ATM, your digital debit card? You see, folks, this currency is making you dependent on the system. Now, let's take a hypothetical person who says, I'm not buying into that game. Whatever I own, I keep in my possession. During the Depression, if you went to these farmers, you say, Farmer Gray, where do you keep your money? They'd look at you like you were nuts. You say, what do you mean, where do I keep it? Which bank? I don't keep it in the bank. What do you got? That's stupid. And you would find that many farmers, especially the small farmers, kept their money rolled up in a jar inside of a fence post. They drill a big hole, put it. Now, you wouldn't know where it is because there's thousands of posts, thousands and thousands. You'd never find it. That's where they kept their money. But their money at that time was convertible to either silver or gold. There were silver certificates or gold certificates. Think about that. Gold or silver. So they had something of value. They had at least a receipt. It's like having a receipt for your clothing at the dry cleaners. You have a receipt. It's not their clothing. It's your clothing. You go there and get your clothes back, even if they didn't clean it right, correctly. So these people had receipts for gold. Or those that didn't even trust that system, the financial system, and many did not, made certain that everything they owned was converted to either silver or gold coins. They went to a fence post. If something would happen, who was the winner? You see how dependent we are? You have nothing. These people have nothing. These people work and they get a paycheck. They put the paycheck in the bank. What did they get for their labor? Nothing. They didn't get anything of value. They got a digit for their labor. A digit that's available only if the bank is open and the government wants you to have it. Think of it. It sounds insane, doesn't it? It sounds, I've lost my mind. You get a paycheck. It's a digital paycheck. There's nothing behind it. If the company said, we decided we're not going to put any money on account, it bounces big. You have nothing. You put it into the bank, it's worse. If the bank closes, you have nothing. If the government says, I know you have $10,000 in the bank, but, we have to devalue the currency, which we're doing anyway, folks, but we do it so slowly, you won't feel it. So if we have to devalue the currency, you had $10,000, well, we had to pay off some bonds, and we really couldn't do it at its current value, so we had to depreciate the currency 10 to 1. So your $10,000 is now worth $1,000. That means it's all it is. It's a digit. Your digits are now equate to 1,000 rather than 10,000. And don't kid yourself. This happens around the world every few years in some countries. Every few years. And you know what people do? They go out and they take the new currency and they accept it. And then it happens again. In Zimbabwe, they did it. Now $100 trillion wouldn't buy postage stamp. Now, we're not there yet. But we have this slow, this moderate inflation, very slow, that's eroding, and eventually it takes off. There's no free ride in this life, folks. I would love for there to be a free ride. I'd love to not do something and be lazy and have a great time, and the end result is, man, I benefit by it. Boy, I made it on that one. Is always a consequence. And there's a consequence to our current currency system. And those people in New York who are walking around saying, well, I have $100,000 in the bank. You have nothing. Because in the old days, you got paid in silver or gold for your effort, and it was worth something. Think about that. So when people say, geez, you have silver or gold, you collect that, what are you, nuts? What value is that? You know where we are. We're taking a break. Let's go. Folks, we only have a few minutes left. I would love to hear from somebody. We've had a slow telephone week. Last week we were bombarded with telephones. I don't know if people are mesmerized with my message. They're so happy to hear from me. They don't want to interrupt me. 855-866-1170. Please, 855-866-1170. We don't have much time for you. Do call in. Just make it short. Love to hear from you. Want to hear your opinion, please. Right? You hear the term prepper, and it has such a negative connotation. And one reason that you have that connotation, we get that connotation, is because they have preppers on TV. But they call them doomsday preppers. Now, anybody who's a doomsday prepper is synonymous with the guy when we were young. There was a guy, in sandals with the beard, with the shaggy clothing, having a sign, and the sign said, repent, the end of time is near. That's who we associate with a doomsday prepper. All right, we have another line. Caller, you're on the air. Your first name, please. Hello. Oh, here we go.
Hey, Joe.
Hello. Good morning.
Yes, Joe.
Yes. Who's calling?
Yes, Pat. I'm
Hi,
calling.
Pat.
Are you recommending gold and silver investing?
No, I don't. I have never suggested that you buy gold and silver as an investment. No.
Okay.
What I am suggesting is that you convert your digital dollars to silver and gold so you always have currency.
Okay.
You see what I mean? There's a difference, and people say, "Well, that's a bad investment." I know if I would have bought AT&T. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you always want to have currency, that a certain portion of your worth should be in something tangible. And but let me tell you something. If you have copper coins, that's fine. If you had nothing but nickels, which is 75% copper, 25% nickels. If you called me and said, "Joe, my entire external net worth, I mean, other than what I have on a day-to-day basis, is in nickels in a warehouse," I'd say, "Good going, Pat."
Yeah.
You see, and I'm not saying you're buying those nickels for appreciation. You're buying them to make certain that you always have currency, true currency. Are you with me? Are you with me on that?
Yeah. And now, as far as gold and silver, I mean, if I want to invest in silver coins, do I just stick with the old American 364 dimes and quarters?
Right. Now you're using if you want to invest in. Okay, you got to get that vernacular out, right? You have to say, if I want to protect me and my family, from any sort of calamity, it doesn't have to be currency collapse. It could happen. It could be a tornado, right? What you would do, the safest thing to do is to buy and I'm not a financial advisor, so you understand that. The safest thing to do is to buy the pre-64. The reason for that is that the premiums on those coins are the lowest, and they're most easily exchangeable. So I would subscribe to that. I would agree to that. Now there's also the Silver Eagles, and then there's a plethora of other types of coins. Silver coins, bullion coins out there. I would stay away from anything large. People, I have friends of mine who buy the big, and go to the sponsor of our program is Tulsa Gold and Silver on 41st Street. They really are good, and the premiums there are extremely low. That's where I go, and tell them Joe sent you. They know me well.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Okay?
All right.
Thank you so much for calling. Hey, send me an email with your mailing address and a T-shirt size, and I'll send you a Liberty Talk Radio T-shirt.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Pat.
All right.
Bye-bye. Yeah, that's a good point. And it's a point that, people say, well, I don't invest in silver and gold. I invest in high-yield stocks. Yeah, that's different. And you should have some of that. And, oh, by the way, after the broadcast, I think we're going to go to La Madeleine's on Cherry Street, 3 blocks west of Utica. La Madeleine for breakfast. If anyone wants to come out and join us, we're going to be there. I think we're going to go to a gun show afterwards, right? We're going to do that and just mosey around there. And McCool's Firearms, which is one of our sponsors, he'll be there. I'm going to visit with them and see what they have to offer. And I invite you to come. Join us for breakfast, please, and don't be bashful. But there really is confusion when people talk about, well, I'm not going to invest in gold and silver. That's a fool's game. It can go down, up. Has nothing to do with it. I don't invest in it. We only have 1 minute to go. All right? I'll take one 30-second call, 855-866-1170. I bet you we can't make it, can we? Okay. All right. Folks, we are going to rebroadcast this on Saturday evening, this coming Saturday evening. And I'd like to thank everyone for listening in on this early part of Sunday morning. I'm just going to ask you to think. You know, the principle of Zorgology is free your mind, your body will follow. Think about that. Free your mind, your body will follow. And with that, does anyone have a last word to say? Everyone's looking at me. They have not a word to say. You know, you put me on for an hour, but you don't have a word to say. Nice guys. Okay. All right. And remember, prepare. Be responsible for yourself. Be responsible for your family. Don't look towards FEMA, please. Thank you very much. This is Joe Cristiano. Stay well, stay tuned.
Propaganda-ridden viruses induced by mass media news programming. No BS here, just the facts.